right on three. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
This is the Coach Kevin May Show, presented by State Farm agent Alex Hetrick in Delmont. Here's Sean Myers and the head coach of the Seton Hill Griffins, Kevin May.
Welcome into Griffins Game Day and the Coach Kevin May Show here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. Sean Myers now joined by Kevin May, first-year Griffins head man after his team suffered a 49-7 loss last week against Slippery Rock. Back at home at Offutt for another matchup today against Gannon. But first off, looking back, Kevin, you're coming off of maybe the biggest win in program history, certainly one of them the prior week at Cal U. We were wondering, would that carry over? Would there be momentum? I think we found out against the Rock that was not the case. So what were some of the biggest takeaways you had in that setback?
Yeah, I don't think our kids were overconfident. I don't. I think we did a good job kind of managing expectations and we could practice that week. I thought that Slippery Rock wanted it a little bit more than we did. I think there was a little bit of, we thought that we could win that game, so we thought it'd be a little bit easier than it presented itself, right? Just in terms of our players learning how to win and moving on. But they didn't want to lose 3 games in a row. They came out and they physically, imposed their will against us a little bit, and really both sides of the ball. We couldn't hang for 4 quarters with them, and we had some moments where I felt like we weren't playing as physical and as tough as we have been playing all year. And they came out and they executed. They had a good game plan, and they really pushed us around. And they had a really, really good running back that we knew was going to be special, and we had a really hard time tackling him and took poor angles. And offensively, we really struggled to get things going. And a lot of 3 and outs that made them get on the field really quick, and then they scored quick, and then we did not play team football, and all the things we said we couldn't do, we did. And against a good team like that, they're going to capitalize on it. And I know that Slippery Rock lost to Gannon the week before, but that was almost like a fluke game the way Gannon won that. But you could tell Slippery Rock is the real deal, and we didn't come out to play. We needed to play to win, and as a result, we lost, and we lost big.
So you gave up nearly 550 yards of offense, but I think the biggest takeaway that I had was the rush defense allowed more than 400. So it wasn't just J.J. Jordan, who was incredible. It was also their quarterback, Owens. It was their backup running backs who were kind of gashing your defense. What do you have to do to make sure that does not happen again?
Yeah, well, the frustrating part is, like, schematically, they are very, very simple. We've played teams that run a lot of really crazy stuff and try to trick you. And that wasn't the case. They just lined up and played, and they moved us a little bit on our defensive line. Naturally, we have a little bit of a smaller unit on defense, and we got moved a little bit, and then we didn't tackle very well. We had some execution issues and just some fundamental issues of playing low and playing physical, and we got moved around. We knew the plays that were coming more often than not. We still couldn't stop it, which ultimately is on me as the head coach of the program if we know what's coming and we still can't stop it, we're probably not coaching it very well. But they had their day with us physically. They outmatched us physically on that day. We didn't play hard enough and low enough and violent enough, and as a result, they moved us up front, and they had really good running backs, and we had some tackling issues. So kind of just the combination of all those things made for a really rough day on the ground. We pride ourselves on stopping the run. That's what we want to do. So it's tough. It's tough to see those numbers, and I know it motivated our kids. I know they were really distraught when they saw that. That's not who they want to be. And credit to Slippery Rock. They just ran the ball. And in the past, too, the games that they've had, their defense has been getting up a lot of points. So they've had to throw the ball and kind of get back into games. And, we couldn't put up points, so they could run the ball every play if they wanted to without having to, play catch up. And they did. They ran the ball almost 50 times, and we couldn't stop it. So credit to them.
Well, you mentioned the issues with tackling. At this point of the season, I would imagine that's not all that easy to address, right? Because you don't want to be wearing down your guys who are already well into a long season. So how do you handle something like that in season?
Yeah, and that's the balance, right? Because there's a balance of you got to stay healthy and stay fresh, but you have to tackle. And we've kind of came with the approach still this far in the season. We tackle on Tuesdays. We go live against our offense, ones versus ones, twos versus twos. We go live against our offense just for 6 plays. And then in individual periods, we tackle each other. So it's a safer environment where you're not rolling up on ankles in 11 on 11, but we tackle our offensive scouts in different drills to try to simulate. And we've improved on that every week. And, JJ was a really special running back last week, but our tackling has improved, from week to week because of the stuff we're doing. At some point, we got to taper off, but, the way the rules are in the NCAA now, you can't tackle enough in fall camp and spring ball to not be able to tackle in season. So, we're still doing it. We tackled on Tuesday of this week, and we'll still do it every Tuesday throughout the course of the season.
You mentioned that the Rock was able to run the football quite a bit because Slippery Rock had the lead. Your team was playing from behind almost the entire game. They scored, less than 3 minutes in, and yet you still gave Chiron 23 carries. I would imagine that's part of the game plan, whether you're in front, behind, or tied, that he's going to get his carries. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. And I think, Slippery Rock has given up a lot of production on the ground going into that game. And so I think just game plan offensively, we felt pretty good about being able to run the ball, and we weren't. And, when you come into it with a game plan of you're pretty confident in something, then all of a sudden you can't do that. You don't have a whole lot of things prepared for, which is on us as coaches. We got to have backup plans and other areas that we could produce if we're not. But, we felt really good about the run game stuff that we had going into that game. And, we didn't want to get away from it too early. Still 28-0 at halftime. You can still claw back into that thing if you stick with your game plan. With Darian as a young quarterback, we don't want to just make him air it out 50 times a game. So, not being able to stop him on defense and then not be able to get the run game going really put us in a tough spot to win that one.
Let's talk about Darian Carter. He was one of the heroes the week before, when I think it surprised a lot of people that he was your quarterback at Cal. I would say Slippery Rock maybe had a better game plan against him. He went to 6 of 18 passing for 40 yards, did rush a little bit, including a score, but wasn't a major difference maker with his legs either. So how did you evaluate him, and how do you go forward at the quarterback position?
Yeah, he's still doing some good stuff. I think, like you said, Slippery Rock had time to prepare for him and had a good game plan. I still think we had a good game plan for them, but it goes back to both sides. I think they, up front, they won that battle up front. So even though we had some plays that schematically should have worked, we lost some battles up front, and they were able to do some things to give us problems. And, we're not asking him to throw the ball 50 times to win a game, but he's good enough to throw it and run it, and he's maturing. And also there's part of it too. He's a true freshman. We don't want to keep throwing him in the fire and hurt his confidence. Like, he still needs to develop a little bit, and having, Bowden back healthy and Hayden getting back healthy. Like, we think it's probably best that Darian keeps learning and come in when he can. And we're not afraid to play him. But the last 2 games, just circumstances of our team, he was our starting quarterback, and we didn't bat an eye. We were confident with him, but true freshman still needs to develop and still needs to grow and keep improving every week. And he attacks it. He's mature. He cares. He's going to be really, really special down the road.
How did you judge the third phase of the game, special teams against Slippery Rock?
Yeah, there was some good and some bad. The kickoff game, it was mostly touchbacks on both sides. We had a run return out to the 40, and we had one return earlier. We completely blew an assignment and got tackled, I think, at the 18-yard line. We pride ourselves that way. We made them punt, I think, only 3 times. We were in punt safe for both of those. We dropped a return. We picked it back up. We dropped a return. And our punt team has been awesome all year. Like, our punt team has been really, really good. We need more, our protection scheme, I should say. We need a little more consistency at the punter position, but we got some lucky bounces and played that way. I don't know that special teams was a huge factor in that game one way or the other. I think it was kind of a wash. I don't think we really won it on specials. I don't think we lost it on specials. I think it was more of just a wash, really.
So you mentioned you didn't have an issue with your team's mindset heading into the game. You thought it was fine. After a game like that, you had gotten so much praise and so much significance was placed on the win at Cal. Did it feel as though the players were like, well, we just gave it right back with a loss like that? Where are they at now heading into this next game?
It's always tough as a coach because we're distraught, they're distraught, rightfully so. And then you kind of have time away from them to mull it over. And we came in Sunday, and my thought was like, okay, our kids, are they going to respond? Like, how are they going to lose confidence? And they had the best workout on Sunday they've had all year. Coach Figner, our strength coach, said that they really, really attacked it, especially defensively. Giving up what they gave up, they really attacked the workout. They were great in meetings. They have player-only meetings. Like, they're fine. And we worry, I think, more as coaches about their psyche. But we had a really good week of practice. They were embarrassed by that performance, but it was on to the next one. And they're attacking this week really well. They're responding really, really well. I think it's a little bit of a shock because you go from a really, really high and a lot of confidence to like, okay, now where are we as a team? What does this mean for us? But I think our kids have really, really attacked it. And it's a credit to our leadership on our team. But they're in a really good spot. I don't think they're too high or too low any week. I think that's our message too. Like, there's going to be a lot of noise out there to tell you you're good or you're not good, or the team you're playing is good or not good. Like, we got to just focus on our process and stay 0-0 and try to go 1-0 every week. So they're in a good headspace, I think.
So the team you're going against today is Gannon, just 1-5 on the season, but the one win was notable. That was the one against Slippery Rock. And then last week they had a crazy game where they lost kind of a heartbreaker against Clarion, a game that they came storming back in the fourth quarter, but ultimately it was a field goal in the final second. So it seems like maybe there's a little inconsistency, I would say, when you can knock off a really good team, but that's your only win in 6 tries. What do you see from them when you evaluate the Golden Knights?
Yeah, first of all, offensively, they're really good. They kind of found their quarterback. They're rotating quarterbacks, but their quarterback is an improviser. He's tough. He can make the throws. They'll run him. He's tough. Their running back is really, really good. They only really play one running back. They don't rotate a lot of guys like most teams do. They play one kid. He's really, really good. Like if you look at the stat sheet, he doesn't have a lot of explosive plays, but he breaks a lot of tackles. He's really good. And their head coach who calls their offense, I have a lot of respect for him. He's always had good wrinkles against us. We've always had good battles. They do a lot of good stuff. They're explosive on offense. They do a good job with their O-line and the system that they run. I think they're really good on offense. They're productive. They score points every game. They're slowing the game down, and they huddle. They take their time. They try to keep their defense off the field. And that's really where they've been struggling. Their defense has been struggling this year, giving up a lot of production, a lot of explosive plays, a lot of points. And so they're trying to play better team football and kind of keep their defense, off the field. And when they beat Slippery Rock, it was like the perfect game plan. They got a surprise onside kick. They faked a punt. They forced takeaways. Like they had some trick plays, like whatever they needed to do to win that game. Because Slippery Rock, like they should have, like if you look at just a skill versus skill in production, Slippery Rock was probably supposed to win that game. But Gannon did a really good job of kind of playing takeaway and keeping the ball. So they're a dangerous football team. They got some good guys up front on the D line that are dangerous and get after the quarterback and in the run game. So especially offensively, this is a good football team. And they played a really tough schedule. But they're putting up points on everybody, and they're going to be tough.
You talked about their quarterback, Ty Hurst, maybe creating some separation. I would imagine he's going to be the guy for the foreseeable future after what he did last week. 424 yards and 5 touchdowns. So specifically, what does he do so well, and what does your defense need to do to make sure that he doesn't replicate that stat line?
Yeah, he's for a lack of a better word, he's squirrely. Like he'll get out of a lot of pressure. He'll fake throw and get your feet to get and outrun you. He'll extend plays. That's the biggest attribute to him is he extends plays. He can make all the throws, but if the throw's not there, he'll escape the pocket. He'll make people miss, keep his eyes downfield and throw. And then he's dangerous in the run game too. They'll do some design quarterback run game, some misdirection stuff, but he just extends plays. He's tough. He'll take hits. He'll throw under pressure. And we played him last year because he was Clarion's backup last year, and Clarion's starter was hurt. So when we beat Clarion last year, Ty was their quarterback, and he did some really good stuff against us. And we knew nothing about him going into our game, but he's just like a skinny string bean, tough kid. That man, he plays hard. You could tell the team rallies around him. He's just gritty, and he makes plays. He's not scared to sit back there and be tough.
On the other side of the football, there's no doubt that they've given up a lot of points. Even in that win against Slippery Rock, still permitted 35. The first game of the season, at least based on numbers, was their best game. So it seems like it's a situation where your offense will have a chance to get on track. What's the key for your offense, and what challenges does Gannon's defense present? Yeah,
the biggest thing for us is we have to execute. We got to block everybody that we're supposed to block. We cannot allow free runners or disruption, and they do have a good D-line. So we have to make sure that their D-line gets blocked, and we got to get Chiron on their linebackers and safeties, and get them breaking tackles, against the guys that don't want to tackle, the little guys, So up front, we got to get movement. We got to get a hat on a hat and get movement. And they get in and out of some different stuff. They run some exotic stuff, and they have some good guys up front. I think their D-line is their strong point. And going into Slippery Rock's game, we thought we could get some on their offense, on their defense, and we weren't able to. So we got to get back on track this week by staying on the field, converting on third downs. We have to do enough in the pass game to take some shots and get some explosives. But more importantly, we got to be able to establish the run. We got to be able to run the ball against these guys and really be able to control the time of possession and keep our defense fresh and off the field. We don't rotate a whole lot of guys on defense. We're undersized and don't have a lot of depth. So if we're playing 70 snaps on defense, we're going to get worn down a little bit. So we got to stay on the field on offense and got to be able to establish the run game and take some shots in the pass game.
Certainly, you touched on several aspects there. Is there anything else that would be key points for victory that you need to accomplish against Gannon?
Yeah, going back to playing complementary football. all three phases. We got to get each other's back. We got to play code red ball, play hard, play fast, play together, but we have to win the things that it takes to win. The takeaway battles, the field position battles, the time of possession. Like, there's no secrets. We tell our kids all the time, there's no secrets to win. If you have the formula and you check off those boxes, you're going to win. So we have to play clean. We have to get out of our own way. Don't play against Seton Hill and Gannon. Just play against Gannon and see what happens when the scoreboard hits 0.
Lastly, I know you and your players are really focused on the game at hand. You have to be, but it's also homecoming. I would imagine that's kind of a big deal, maybe in the hours leading up to the game. So how do you as a coach balance that, make sure that everyone enjoys it while also having the focus on where it should be?
Yeah, well, I told them on our Tuesday meeting early in the week that homecoming is for the people that are coming back, that have played here before, our former players. Homecoming is not for us or our current team, and it shouldn't be a distraction, certainly. It shouldn't impact our preparation and our focus. And so I haven't built that up at all. I've tried to do most of that stuff on my own or with the non-travel guys in terms of, the pep rallies and that stuff. But I want our kids to feel like a normal game week of prep. I don't want them to focus on who's in the stands or who's back. For us, we're just trying to go 1-0, and then after the game, we'll appreciate the guys that came back, and it's really about them. It's about our alum, not about our current players. So when they come back for homecoming, they can enjoy homecoming. The best way they can enjoy it now is going 1-0 for the people that came back to watch the game.
Hopefully that's how it plays out, and we'll get a chance to talk to you afterwards. Kevin, thanks so much for doing this as always, and good luck.
All right, Sean, appreciate you.
That's the Coach Kevin May Show. We'll take a break and continue with Griffin's Game Day right here on the Westmoreland Sports Network.